Hi. There you are. Okay, unmute yourself. Do you see?
Yes.
There you are. Hi.
Okay. I was just I joined in and I was the only one on.
You were early, girl.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm glad to see you.
Yeah.
I'm actually talking about one of your questions tonight, so that's good.
Oh, okay. Good.
Well, the question you had asked about having a plan and like all that.
Yeah.
So, but I do know already that quite a few people aren't going to be live tonight. So, but that's fine because it is our recording. I'm going to pause that. Hold on. Okay. Hey guys, it's Demetria and we're ready for our second duplicate training. So I'm glad that I know some of y'all are on vacation this week at the beach. I think 2 of you actually are at the beach. So I hope you're enjoying that. And I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today. The training that we're going to do, I kind of titled it Being the CEO of You, because there's a little bit of a mind shift that happens as you go from running a business of just you and your PCs, which is what you kind of got experience doing initially, of just kind of having your customer base and taking care of that and what's involved with that. And then you've kind of like changed seats at the table and now you're a leader of other people who are also doing that. And so we're going to look at today, it's kind of like a day in the life. Like, what are some things that might come across your plate now that you maybe weren't experiencing before you kind of got into this position of leadership? And how does that affect the way you have to manage your time, the way you have to manage your own personal business, and all those things. So we're going to talk about being the CEO in this new position that you're in. As you kind of grow with the business, you kind of have to continually evolve in the way that you adapt to your own personal business. So I'm going to start off by showing a little video clip. And this was something that was on the Daily Experience, which, by the way, I'm sure most of y'all are on there. I do not watch it every day because I just flat don't have time for it. But when I do watch it, there's some great nuggets. But I remember this girl, what's her name? Let me see. She did this training. It's been months ago, actually. Kelly, I think it's her name. Kelly Coolhay. Anyway, but she did this training a few months ago and talking about the way to be a leader to your team. And it just resonated with me, I think, because some of my background is with this kind of leadership. And so I wanted y'all to watch this, and it kind of launches into what we're going to talk about today. So hold on. I'm going to screen share you here. Okay. Hold on. This is so fancy. Okay, so here we go. We're going to watch this and just for like 2 minutes, and then we'll come back.
So I want to start with, I heard it once said that a good example is twice as valuable as good advice. And I truly believe in the power of leading by example. And so I came across this leadership story that I feel perfectly highlights what it means to lead by example. And so here's the quick story. And it's a true story. There's this French monastery that's known throughout Europe for its exemplary leadership of a man by the name of Brother Leo. And so there was this group of monks that decided to take a pilgrimage out to this monastery to meet Brother Leo and learn from him, learn from this great leader. So the monks take off on this pilgrimage, and almost immediately they start arguing over who's going to do the chores and yada, 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 right? 3 days into their journey, another monk joins them, and he doesn't take part in the arguing. He actually decides to volunteer and starts doing the work. He starts doing the chores. On the last day of their journey, the arguing kind of subsides, and the monks start following his lead, and they start doing the chores along with him. Okay, so they finally reach the monastery, and they ask to see Brother Leo. And the guy that greets them starts laughing, and he says, Brother Leo is among you. And he points to the monk that joined them 3 days into their journey. And so that's the end of the story. But a short story, simple story that I feel is so poignant, because here was this Brother Leo, this extraordinary leader that they were all going out to see. And he joins the group, is not touting his title like, hey guys, I'm the leader, like this, I'm the one you're searching for. No, he came into the group and he led by example. He took action. He cared about the people around him, and he started to lead the group by doing. And I feel like that's what it means to be a true leader. It's to lead through your actions and not solely through your words. It's about being a servant and not a commander. Okay, so how do we apply?
Okay, so I thought that story was great because it really helps me to, I think that everyone's like, oh, teach me, what's the magic of leading these people, and now I have this team, and what's the magic? What do I need to be doing differently? And I think that kind of what that story points out to me is like, really, you just need to be doing what you're doing and keeping it up, right? So that the best way to lead is by continuing to do. And we talked last week about how really keeping it simple and just doing the basic things that make the business work is really what, turns the wheels, right? And so really you have to keep that mindset is like, I am going to lead them by doing, okay? You can talk to your blue in the face, you can motivate, you can like send inspirational quotes, whatever you want to do. But if the person is not seeing you do the work, they're way less likely to do it themselves, right? So you have to kind of keep the mindset of, just like Brother Leo, like get in there and do it. So it's going to be almost impossible for you to have somebody on your team really succeed if they don't see you going to events and, posting things on Facebook or taking care of your PCs or checking in on your PCs or, whatever it is. You can't expect them to be doing it if they don't see you doing it. So I think the most important thing to remember there is that as you grow as a leader and as you grow as a CEO of your own company, you have to remember that you're being looked to and that you need to kind of keep up these simple things in the business, right? The tendency, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, the tendency is to kind of be like, all right, I got some people out here doing their thing, and that's real easy to manage. And that's actually kind of a lot of fun, and a little bit easier is to let me check in on my team instead of getting new PCs or growing my team. So there's a real, there's a divide there. And so you want to make sure that what you're doing is that you're keeping up your own personal income producing activities, and that you're leading in that way by example, that you're leading by going to events, that you're leading by posting things, by being present, by being available, because those are all things that your team is going to kind of look for there. So as you have kind of stepped into this new level of leadership, you're all of a sudden juggling some new balls, right? So you kind of had gotten used to kind of taking care of your own personal business and maybe a consultant, and maybe they needed a little something. But as you get on up as a level 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, all of a sudden you have your own problems plus new consultants, plus in a lot of cases they're new consultants, plus, and so you kind of start to feel this burden of whoa, this is a whole new level of commitment that I'm signed up for. And maybe, I still only have this many hours that I can commit to my business. And how do I, choose what needs to be focused on my personal business and what can I dedicate to my team? What do I need to do for my team? Because honestly, as your business does grow, it might start taking a little bit more of your time. It might mean that you have to, switch up some of the, stay up a little bit later or give up a TV show every now and then, and we're going to talk about some of those specifics in a minute. But you do have to sort of begin to evaluate as a leader, your business has grown. And so if before you had X number of hours that you were working, well, you were getting paid for X number of hours. And as your organization grows, you might have to dedicate a little bit more time, and you might just have to get creative, and we'll talk about a couple of those things. So if we were talking about as a leader, you need to continue to lead by example, that people are going to be looking to you and really motivated most by watching you lead by example. So what are some of those income producing activities that you can do? And keeping in mind, everything you're doing can be teachable for the people who are watching you, right? You want to begin to cultivate that, like, you know, do as I do, you know? So I think that one of the things is being efficient. Okay. So if you only have a small amount of time to work on your business, then we need to work really hard at making that time efficient. And I don't want to insult you guys. I know there's a million trainings out there about do 5 reach outs and 5 follow-ups and 5 new Facebook friends, or 2 of this and 2 of this and 2 of this. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways that you can do that. And there's also 1,000 trainings you can listen to on how to do your daily reach outs and keep spreadsheets on who you've talked to. And, you know, there's all kinds of training on that. I do think that as your business grows, one of the more important things that you need to keep in mind is that you really do have to work to be efficient. So you have to plan to be planned, right? You have to organize to be organized. And that's one of the things that I think I've learned the most is like, gosh, I can't get by on my Post-it note system very well anymore, because I don't have as much time to sort of sort through that, or, you know, I don't have as much time to sit down and scroll through Facebook for 20 minutes to find 5 people to reach out to, right? So I have really had to work at trying to be more effective with the time that I do have. And what that looks like for me, and everybody is different, but what that looks like for me is that Sundays, I sit down, I try to listen to the training call on Sunday nights. I'm a big fan of training calls. If nothing else, I mean, I don't know that I walk away just infinitely more, you know, wise than when I started, but I do walk away almost every week feeling like this little pep in my step, right? And that kind of propels me in to going ahead and getting organized for the week. So I kind of just set aside my like 9 to 10:30 on Sunday nights when I kind of probably would rather be asleep, but I kind of just set that aside for like, okay, I'm going to listen to this training call and then I'm going to get organized for my week. And that has really, really helped me, so that then on Monday morning, when I wake up and I try to get stuff done before my kids are going, or before I get to the grocery store on Mondays or whatever, I already know who I'm going to be reaching out to, right? There's a ton of trainings on how to organize yourself that way, but I do think that the more your organization grows, the more you really do have to make a conscious effort to be organized with your time, because the time that you used to have available for a little more flexibility in that now is going to be eaten up with some consultants and some things you need to be doing for your team. So a couple just practical things. I say Facebook, I mean, it is a time suck, and I'm guilty. I was preparing for this training and I was like, I don't think I really realize how much of a time suck it is for me. And I think that it kind of hides and camouflages itself underneath this guise of like, I'm doing stuff for my business, but honestly, it's not. It's really like just killing time. So I say stay away from Facebook when you can. If you have to be on there to message or whatever, like that's all good and well, but the scrolling, it's just going to kill you. Set a timer. I have tried to do this a few times where I will like set a 15-minute timer. And we do this a lot on our power hour calls, which I think are so effective, because you're like, okay, I only got 10 minutes. I got to crank this out. So maybe try a couple things and just figure out what works for you. But I do think that as your business grows, you need to make sure that you're working effectively and being organized there. Another thing that I think, as far as income producing, that is just a good business practice as you grow and as you have team members looking at you, is setting business hours. Now, I probably have heard this, I don't know, 1,000 times, to set business hours. And I'm always like, yeah, okay, great. But I have just recently gotten to where I will look at my week on Sundays when I'm planning and say, okay, I'm going to be working from these hours to these hours, from these hours to these hours. And that really has been for me, because I've found that I can feel like I constantly have this pressure that I need to be doing something. And so if I'm able to chunk it out, and for some people that may look like, you know, you're able to work for an hour before the kids get up, or you work from 9 to 10 o'clock at night, 3 days a week, or you're able to give up your lunch break, or, I don't know, that everybody's schedule is so different. You have to kind of get real honest with yourself. And sometimes, it's not convenient. It's not like I want to work from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., but it's really just the only time that I've found that I'm uninterrupted. And so I've just committed to doing that 2 mornings a week. So, you need to kind of get real honest with getting out a calendar and going, where can I fit this in? The beauty of this biz is you can do it at stoplights, but I'm going to be honest, you can't run a business at a stoplight, right? So you can do that. That is not a lie. There are nooks and crannies that we fit this into. However, you also do need to come up with at least a chunk during the week where you are able to give just some focused effort to your business, to planning, to reaching out to your team, and doing your own personal business reach outs. Okay. So one of the things about that, that I would caution you for as well is, as you grow in your business, things like checking pulse and running reports and looking at volume and seeing who on your team is at what levels, the more you grow, you'll begin to notice that those kind of things you maybe didn't care about too much before. But then as you're like, oh gosh, am I going to hit level 3 this month? Let me check on her numbers. Let me see how much farther she has to go. You start kind of getting into a little bit more of the housekeeping type things of rotating in fields. And those kind of things can suck your time too. So you just want to be careful that when you're setting your business hours, it is for income producing or team development type stuff, right? Save the checking volume for stoplights. Okay. Okay. A little more about that. Okay. Keeping the funnel full. This is something that will flow right into kind of the next step, but there's a tendency to feel like, oh, I've got these team. Oh, I had no idea. I did this. I'm so guilty. I grew this team and it happened pretty fast, and I had all these people and they all kind of got trained and were doing their thing. And there was this tendency to be like, oh man, I wasn't even expecting this. And here I am. I'm a level 3 leader and everything's great. And I just let it go. And I didn't continue to grow my team. And then a few months I look around and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a level 1 leader. What happened? Because I didn't continue. There's this tendency to feel like, oh, I've arrived and I didn't even mean for this to happen. And here I am. But I didn't continue to grow the business, right? I didn't continue to do the reach outs that I had. When I started, that is why I grew so fast, because I was doing the reach outs. I was doing the hard work. I was making the messages. I was having the conversations, and I grew really fast. And then all of a sudden I kind of set back on my heels. I was like, whoa, how about that? This actually worked. But I didn't continue to do it. And because you don't continue to do it, then you look around one day and half your people have, gotten divorced and moved and, whatever has happened, had life changes, and they're like, this really isn't for me. And so unless you continue to fill your funnel and keep your team growing, you could potentially look around in a few months and be like, whoa, I used to be a level 2 or a level 3 or a level 4. But because you don't continue to fill that funnel and keep the machine running, you might not be for long. So the other thing about this is it's also really important for your current team to see you continuing to work the business, right? They need to see you continuing to have conversations and to have prospects that you're talking to and having problems that you're dealing with. And they need to see you as an active member in the business so that they can feel like it's duplicatable, right? Just like we talked about last week. They need to be able to look to you and say, I'm going to do what she has done because look, that's how it works. She has been consistent and done the reach outs and been consistent and been at the, events and done things online and invited to, they need to be able to look at you and see that the system you're teaching them is actually working. So that's another reason that is important to keep your funnel full, is because honestly, you're just setting the example. A lot of y'all may know this about me, but for years I was so hesitant and I just didn't do Facebook. And I really dug my heels in, and honestly, it's a humongous regret. And I knew it would be, and everyone told me it would be. And I just was like, out to prove them wrong, I think. And I didn't, because now I post on Facebook and my business shows, it has reflected in that. Now I try to stay true to who I am. That has been really important to me. But the more I grew in the business, it was like, listen, I cannot talk to my directs about, well, why don't you post about Facebook, or why don't you do a flash sale on Facebook and do that, when I don't do that myself. Like, I can't ask my team to do things that I'm not willing to do or doing myself. And I wanted my team to grow, and I wanted my business to grow. And so I got real and raw with myself and was like, look, I got to do the same thing I'm asking them to do. There's no exemption to me just because I, have a deal with it. So anyway, lesson learned and 2.5 years wasted, but whatever. We're moving on, right? Okay. So let's move on to things that you need to be aware of now that you are a leader, right? There's like these scary monsters that come up when you're all of a sudden a leader. And I do feel like, particularly in this business, it kind of happens overnight. It's like, one minute I'm running this successful business, I'm making a nice paycheck. The next minute I've gotten some consultants, and this is really fun because isn't that what we're supposed to do? And the next minute you're like, holy crap, I've got all these consultants and they're calling me and they want things, and what am I supposed to do, and how am I supposed to deal with this? And it's super easy when you get in this position to fall into management mode. Okay. And what I mean by management mode is you become the, mover and shaker, and it's real easy to encourage your team, and it's real easy to make phone calls to your team, and you're just managing what you got, right? You're just managing the people who are currently on your team and dealing and putting out fires and doing all that kind of stuff, which is all great. But if you fall into management mode and ignore the things that make your business, grow and grind and the wheels spin, then you're not going to have much to manage for long, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about. If you don't keep your funnel full, if you're not doing the things you're asking your team to do yourself, and you're just operating in management mode, then your organization is not going to be too strong for too long, right? So it's real easy to feel like, oh, I've got these consultants, and if I just really encourage them and really push them and challenge them and say the right thing and do the right thing, motivate them in a certain way, then it's going to all, I'm just going to continue to grow this organization. And I really want you to challenge you to think about that, because it sounds really good, but it doesn't practice really well, right? Because we teach and teach and teach that this business is duplicatable, that it's simple, that you just have to do A, B, and C, reach outs and get people on product and get people as new consultants. But if you, as a leader, only lead and aren't doing the hard, the A, B, and C that we teach yourself, and you're only managing, they're going to eventually begin to see that, right? Because when you get into management mode and you quit kind of doing the basic things that keep your business growing, then all of a sudden your organization's really super weak. So I heard statistics one time that you should spend as a leader 80% on your personal business and 20% on your team, the 80-20 rule. So when you think about that, it's like, whoa, I mean, there are weeks that go by where I am super dedicated to home base and putting out all these fires that come, and individual, I got a payday question, and I have a customer that this happened. What should I do about this? What should I do about? And I can all day long be working the business, but I'm not doing anything to grow my own personal business, right? So I have to be really mindful. And as you continue to grow your organization, be really mindful that if it works out, it kind of feels a little counterintuitive, but if you are working on your business and you give a little dedicated time to your team, they see what you're doing and they copy what you're doing. That's the business model, right? They see what you're doing, they copy what you're doing, and that in the long run is going to really pay off. And that's going to end up, to where the 20% that you spend with your team is going to be things like weekly check-ins. I really encourage you guys as leaders to get into the practice of checking in with your directs every week at least once, right? So, and what that needs to look like, that does not need to look like an hour-long conversation. And if you are doing that, I need to encourage you to stop, because you will not do that for very long. I would say get in a habit of pick a morning, right? On your way to work every Tuesday morning, shoot a text to your directs. Hey, just wanted to check in. Let me know if you have anything. I'm free during lunch today. Call me if you need anything. Make yourself available. You do not need to necessarily have an hour-long conversation and talk about every single person they're talking to and every single thing, because, you know, they really don't need that from you. They may want to say those kind of things, which is, you know, all good and well, but as a leader, you have to sort of give some parameters to what you are able to give, right? So I think I've said this before, and I said it last week. I think the first 60 days, you're at their disposal. Okay. You just need to kind of have that mindset. Like, I'm going to pour myself out for 60 days, right? I'm going to teach them how to answer their own questions. I'm going to teach them the resources that they have at their disposal. I'm going to teach them how to do a BBL. I'm going to teach them how to use, you know, how to put in orders and manage accounts or whatever, right? So for 60 days, you are on. Okay, big time. You just got to give it. You just got to give it to them, right? But then after that, I think you say, hey, after this 60 days, I'm going to check in with you. And if you have specific questions that you cannot find out yourself, or you need me to talk through, or you're having trouble with this or that, let's talk about that, right? But you kind of need to give them the parameters that you're comfortable with as far as what you have to give. Now, the flip side of that is you have to give them something. And here's why. You're making money off of them, basically, right? So you need to kind of think about this, like, this is kind of part of my job, you know, like, you are on my team and I am your leader. And so I, every month, make a percentage of what you have sold. And so it behooves me for you to do well, right? And so you need to kind of have that mindset. Now, you also need to be able to have a conversation saying, oh, here's what I've got. You know, I don't have 2 hours every week to talk to you about this, but I do have 20 minutes, right? And so get good and creative at having those kind of boundaries as far as that goes. But you also do need to make sure that you are making yourself available. It's kind of part of your business hours where they see, okay, I know I can catch her in the car typically on this day, or she usually opens up this lunch break for me to call, or I know she works every Wednesday morning. That would be a good time for us to connect or whatever. So do come up with some way to be available to your team, right? And I think that you need to initiate that as the leader once a week, even if it's just a text. And sometimes, I mean, I've had consultants who they're pretty good. But then every now and then I'm like, I need to talk to her voice. Like, this is not healthy for me to go more than 1 or 2 weeks as a working EC. It's not a good practice to get into, to just kind of let them go, because then I think they start to feel like alone or, you know, whatever. So I do think you need to get a practice of having a system to reach out to them. That's healthy, right? So 80% on your own, 20% on your team. The other things that could include would be, I would say, that the weekly connection, right? You can start doing power shot calls, where if you have somebody who is running, who is working the business really hard, I would offer them, hey, let's just have a standing 20-minute conversation. And they can call you with, I do this with Becky, but they can, when I call her, I have to be ready to talk about what I have going on. And it can't be the same thing I talked about last week, right? If it's the same thing I talked about last week, she's like, I want to hear it because I already heard about that. And if you haven't done it, or that's how it moved forward at all, then, you know, nothing new, don't need to hear about it. So it's kind of got some pretty clear parameters of, she wants to hear what is going on with my business, what new prospects I have going on, and troubleshooting type things. Like, okay, help me with this language. Give me an idea of what I should say about this or that. And we just, I mean, but it is on the phone, off the phone. We are not chit-chatting about anything else, okay? It is pure work for a shot, right? Power shot, good name for it. So those kind of things, and there was one other thing that I was thinking would be good to do, to be available to your team, but it's gone. Sorry. Sure, it was really, really, really good though. Okay, so about management mode, this is the really easy place to land, okay? Because it's really fun to give incentives to your team or pump your team up or have those kind of conversations. But you have to remember that the most important thing for your business and ultimately theirs is that you are leading by example and doing the daily activity, right? That you are basically being what you want them to be. Right? You want them to be out there having conversations and doing three-way calls and reaching out to people. And so you have to be doing that yourself. Sorry, something weird just popped up on my screen. Hold on. Hang on, sorry. Okay. Okay, so Jennifer, you had asked a question specifically about how to have a plan, and hopefully I addressed just broadly that fitting in, but do you have like a specific, is there anything specific that you want to ask about that?
Well, I think the big thing, you know, in my situation is working 12-hour shifts and then having, you know, when you're at home, it's like kid mode. And I know everyone has their things, but I don't have a set Wednesday or a set Thursday. I was trying to think as you were talking, in the fall, the girls are going to school. So the Tuesdays that I have off from work, I can dedicate a couple of hours. And I thought about just saying to my team, hey, I'm going to be this Tuesday at this coffee shop from this time to this time. Drop in when you can, kind of thing. And I think that will work. But for the summer, yeah, coming up with 2 hours that's consistent is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, you know,
one thing that you might want to consider is, I don't know, time in your car. I know a lot of people tend to say, okay, I'm going to dedicate my commute to just, even if it's sending text, voice text. I don't know if you guys know about the voice memo on your texting. Some of you guys know about it because I do it to you all the time. But there's like a little recording thing where it sounds like a voicemail, like a recording. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do that when I'm driving all the time because I feel like it's safe. And also I kind of feel like I like the personal, like they can hear my voice versus just a like, hey, how's it going? You know? So maybe just try that like and you know, it's just a text. So you don't really get into too much, but at least you have a touch point. And then if they have something, you can say, hey, I'm available, I don't know, lunch or tonight at 10 o'clock or whatever, to at least make yourself available to that, right? So, and this summer, I'm telling you, it is hard. It has been really hard, a big challenge this summer, because I find myself like, wait a minute, like I don't know how to make this work as well. So, and huge props to y'all working full time and having kids. I mean, the things we juggle are not small things. So I do understand how looking for those slivers of time is tough. But maybe
I feel like I use the slivers I have to do all my PC orders and then checking in with my team, and I have no time for new reach outs and new things that I'm having a hard time working in. But we'll figure it out.
I know. And that's something that maybe you need to kind of reevaluate, like, okay, how can I get more organized so that even if it's just one a day, you know, that I have 6 people I'm going to reach out to this week, you know, and I send one message a day, and it's, you know, 5 minutes. I sit in my driveway for 5 minutes before I go inside. You know, I don't know, like you carve out a little small sliver of time. But I think that the problem with, you know, finding the time, obviously, I mean, it's an issue, right? But thinking about, okay, if I can just dedicate another couple minutes to continuing to grow my business, like, you know, that can't be the thing that gets shaved off, right? Because, you know, shave off something else, shave off, I don't know, touching base with your team for a week in order to get something going for your own personal business, right? Because otherwise it'll shrivel up on a vine and die, right? So maybe just try to be aware of that and think about that. And I honestly say that from experience. It's not like I'm just like, oh, don't do that, it's going to be bad for your business. I say that as someone who's having to rebuild the organization, because I got to level 5 and did all that stuff and didn't continue to grow, and now I've had to rebuild it, right? So but I know, and hopefully we'll just pray that when your kids are in school next year, you'll be able to carve a little bit of time where it feels like a little more space for that. So, but big props for you for working the way you do and still fitting this in and growing a really impressive organization. So okay, well, so hopefully the little recap of the nuggets was not forgetting to lead by example, and leading in such a way that you are doing the things that you're telling your team to do for the benefit of your business, but also for them to be able to see what you're doing, not getting too wrapped up in leading a team that you forget your own personal business, and continuing those income producing activities that will ultimately continue to grow your organization. So in keeping the balance and figuring out ways to creatively kind of have that balance where you have the space to continue to grow your business, but also manage your team and allow them some space of you because you are their leader, right? So, okay, hopefully that was helpful. One thing that I would love for you guys to do after you've watched this video is to spend some time tonight, tomorrow, whenever, really looking at your next week, right? And getting really honest about, okay, where are my chunks of time? Because I have a chunk of time at night after my kids go to bed from 9 to 10. And sometimes I'm willing to give that up and sometimes I'm just not, So, but I need to look at my bigger week and say, okay, I'm going to have to work on this night. And then I'm going to not on this night. I'm going to sit with my husband, right? But I'm going to have to work on my Tuesday and Thursday mornings in order to do that, right? And so you just need to weigh out, like, where am I going to give up a few things in order to do this? So I want y'all to look at the next week and pick out a few chunks of time that you're going to use for your income producing activity and your team, your days in the life of you as a leader, and report back and find some creative spaces that maybe you hadn't thought of before where you can steal a few more minutes. So, okay, hopefully that was helpful, and we'll meet back here next Monday night for another brief little training. And thank y'all so much. Okay, bye. Have a good night.